Fatima's Song. Fatima, why do you now frown? My soul is frowning. I feel pain. I thought about the thorny crown, faith the size of a mustard grain, a woman's yes, a mother's love, and this land once conquered by Spain, the ark, the rainbow, and the dove, Our Lady and her only Son, and heaven's fire stars high above. Allah is God and has no son. He, power and peace absolute, sent ancient Christians on the run, and sent the scimitar to rout them from cathedrals to their death, convert or kill, kidnap and loot. But Our Lady brought life, not death. Angel Gabriel came to her. John was born to Elizabeth. The prophet whose voice caused to stir the nascent Christians who to receive Isa, he who came to incur the depravity we receive, the lack of grace from our parents upon himself. Adam and Eve sunk their teeth into the serpent's tail and ate what they were forbade. That trees flower and fruits still scent the air we breathe, where in its shade still harvesting forbidden fruit. I frown because I am waylaid. There is now a fork in my route. We're on pilgrimage to Lady Guadalupe in ash and soot. We crossed our desert and the sea, across both which the scimitar swept. Now I turn that sword inwardly, cutting out all the sins I've kept, so I can be like Mary's lamb, washed by his blood, and her tears wept. He who is the I am who am, his will shall be done, not by force, but the shepherd who is his lamb. Jesus did not ride on a horse, severing heads, forcing our will. He let us work out our own course, to be afraid of those who kill not the body, but the soul. So those of my line who rode to kill, torture, maim, sought to overthrow what even God does not demand. It's my freedom he did bestow. I'm free to obey his command. Because of this I'm deeply torn. I live my life in Allah's hand. Before him I am a lamb shorn of its white wool. Who's my shepherd? He who by the Virgin is born? Is he the Son, the living Word? Who'd rather me be hot or cold than lukewarm water, never stirred, else he spit me out? He who told mankind he came to bring a sword, not peace, yet no sword did he hold. My ancestors are a ship moored on foreign shores, yet here I am, meeting this wild, unbridled King of Kings, the I am who am, commanding his kings from his throne. No other man could be this Lamb, who changes hearts by word alone, word flaming with the Holy Ghost, and God the same, but each their own. Ashoka, they worship the host, die for it too. Let us face east. Now it's time to pray. The outpost town would be the last till the feast of Saint Junipero Serra, a missionary to the least of western Hispaniola, converting souls, expanding Rome, as did the French in Canada. Martyrs, 12, left hearth and home to bring God himself to dwellers formed of the same silt, clay, and loam, as all the other travelers, kin of No, who built a tower the triune struck down. Babblers they became, losing the power they once held. A diaspora issuing forth like a shower of stars from Abram and Sarah, scattering over land and sea, each bringing with them the saga of origin and history. The flood and God, the three in one, told around fires orally, among the stars, the moon and sun. The epic told, the story taught, so the bond would not be undone, and the knot remaining ever taut. The knot fastening God to man, like the net with which fish are caught. Around the globe the story ran of the God, the flood, and tower, falling, tongues twisting as tried span the land, harnessing wind power, sailing endless waves of blue. The story told of the flower, that bore the fruit that men still chew, like concubines to the serpent, jealous coils constricting virtue of the evil of the ever concupiscent children of No, flung far and wide into lands that once were absent, the ones to whom the serpent lied. Every day the wood they collect, like the day, and those who've died, who've hunted, fathered, thought, and trekked, burned up in flames of light and heat. Hot food, warm bones, they recollect the story for which their hearts beat. Every tribe scattered far and wide keeps it alive, a distant beat echoing from dwellings astride rivers great, where monuments built connect the gods to souls inside, men whose eyes to the heavens tilt, up the spires and minarets, to stone-faced gods, glass golden gilt, winged buttresses and parapets, incense, gold, the resounding gong, cymbals, etchings, and round tablets of clay, the living sound of song within the walls, the quiet space where war and nature don't belong, where silence opens all of space and time, and the heavens above, where God and mortals interlace in a desperate fight for love, like Vikings battling on the sea. Swords and clubs, a ferocious shove, and man falls into the belly of the whale, waiting to winnow weary souls sailing on the sea, fishing for a tiny minnow while standing on the great whale's back, shouting out to tomorrow, "No, I've had enough. Stop the attack. I am helpless. My will you broke. I am nothing but a whale's snack. I cannot bear this heavy yoke of what you call me forth to do. My friend lies here and has not woke from the demoniac trance. Spew us out of this infernal room, and let me see the skies of blue. Let this dungeon not be our tomb. With lies and pride and vice 'twas built. Weave me in you with your bride's loom, into thy comfort patchwork quilt. Me with family hand in hand, our roots sunk deep into thy silt, the hourglass filled both sides with sand. Who am I to refuse thy will? Me whose life breaks every command, thrashing in a bubonic thrill by light of my funeral pyre, lost in the dark satanic mill, at the heart of the city mire, the city where men work and toil while saints ride chariots of fire. He woke, his face in the soil, dry and sandy, gritty and hot, the sun making his blood to boil. The slow approaching donkey's trot stops. Heavy feet fell on the ground. A welcome sound of a coffee pot, clanging over a little mound. He hears the man clearing his throat. The donkey brays its homely sound in this desert, barren, remote. He crawls up the dune, a brown robe. He's alone. He watches him dote about, building a fire. His robe is dingy and worn, and his hood is protecting him from the globe of plasma while he's burning wood. He looks down his side of the hill. His unconscious friend had withstood the ordeal of the pit until the demon seeped into his thought. He was clearly possessed. His will slaved to demons, dark ones, who fought the angel assigned to his friend at birth. That is what he was taught, and the only way to defend against the dark ones of the pit was holiness and prayer, to bend the knee to the King, who does sit among galaxies in heaven, where we simple dwellers posit pathetic sorrows, sin-laden demands, banal grievances, bald and hairy lies, heaping burden upon bloody burden. He's mauled him by the insignificant beast, an ape that God made nearly bald, who does not invite to the feast the very King to whom we kneel, entreating that we be increased, to give us whatever we feel, assuming a God-given right is to, with him, strike a good deal. He fought this with all of his might. He wanted there no God to be. He fought with all his youthful fight. But God will never let man be. He chases us with heaven's hound, spirit, ghost, the breeze that's holy. And the pendulum swung around again. Now his heart ached with grief. Pride lodged in his throat like a pound of cheese. His friend needed relief. Souls from the pit with him abode. They were here in direct relief to light men shed on nature's code. The laws Gear knew from his force chain, the 5 forces, one at each node, and the bits of matter that drain into the hole that Hawking said was a storm of black-body rain. The demons streamed out, like bats led out of a cave by Apollo's rest, of the abode of the dead souls and the angel who follows his own crooked will. These dueling worlds of mankind, each one swallows the other in a fight, grueling and consuming, nature and mind. One, of laws of matter fueling the heavens, where the gods have dined. The other, lawless, seeking law, creating dreams you cannot find among movements written in law. In him these worlds came to collide. His friend lay near, clenching his jaw. The demon in John did not hide. The battle in his own soul raged. Clearly, he had to choose a side. One of the sides would leave him caged with the Minotaur in the maze, steaming nostrils, red-eyed, enraged. The other, to heaven, could raise him to the God, love eternal. This, Pascal's wager, set ablaze smoldering tinder internal. The choice was clear. Logic, reason. He had to bet an external God spun the earth through each season, with the force he keeps in motion. He began to sense what reason he wrought. He began to sense what treason he wrought. Deep, vast like the ocean. But the waters had washed him clean, like a magic healing potion. The trials of life proved to be mean and callous. To love and forgive, these were forces he had not seen in the lost way he chose to live. They were there, but not as ideals God gave to man on how to live, accompanied by thunder peals. They were of the same golden thread in life's great tapestry that reels one below the surface of lead, down the incorrupt thread of gold, to where those who've died are not dead. The good in life, the thread of gold, was a hidden path, winding through the city where man is extolled in his own mind, blind to the view down the dark, puddled, cobbled road where dim lamps flicker for the few, guiding them past the black abode of vice oozing a fiendish pow, broken by the chivalric code, marching quiet and standing tall, passing through, unperturbed, unseen, a threat no more to those who fall, who curse the God they think unseen, no wound to probe like Saint Tom, because they claim that sin is clean. The sin that pierced Jesus' mom with the pain a good mother feels when she bears her love aplomb and her son's life blind hatred steals. The timeless one subjected to time, creator to creation kneels, and we cannot spare him a dime. Gear asked for help. A stupefied look struck his soft face like a mine trapped in a box and petrified. Brown Robe relented without much chagrin, but he was terrified. Impurely himself he did touch, and demons know and gladly tell sins unconfessed, hid in a hutch. The truths they speak, they cast a spell of envy and rage, greed and lust. There was no priest here to dispel his sins. Under his breath he cussed at himself for giving in. Now he did not walk upright and just. "Gear," John whispered. "He is the plow that tilled her field. He cleared the weed, Gear. He's the one who drove the plow, filled the acres with fertile seed. The hills he knew, you never will. You're a jackass, and he's a steed." The statement made Gear want to kill John. It was a lie, that was plain, but it wormed its way through Gear's will. Wounds ripped open, throbbing with pain. The Brown Robe could not have known her, or could he? His thoughts were insane. They were not clear, more of a blur. He'd not believe the forked-tongued lie, though he knew he'd never be sure. The three walked down across the high desert on their way to the town. Don't you know your actions we spy? What you did underneath your gown? You are a beast. We'll never bow to a priest of robe black or brown. You're a beast who to God does bow. Mud-sucking pigs pushed from a crotch, sucking the sour teat of a sow, while fondling your tiny crotch. Brown Robe's eyes grew wide and his jaw went slack. His face paled and a blotch of red burned his cheeks. Then he saw what drove from his mind that dark taunt. Death itself, and black hatred raw, in eyes that will forever haunt him, eyes that were an open pit where human souls, the demons flaunt, where the law of God is worth spit. The two men of God, turned inside themselves by the demon dimwit, forgot how the sacraments applied the outside world was a stranger. Forgot how the sacraments applied. The outside world was a stranger. Their connection to it had died, put them in imminent danger of being caved in from the light that was born in a humble manger. Despite himself, Gear still clutched tight to a way of life contrary to the passage of every rite he vowed. Tokens for the fairy Charon rose to the languid sighs of souls whose obols plenary indulgences this trip won't buy. All the sacraments Gear avowed were obols that could only buy the ride across Styx Charon rode to judgment, his doom, Hades' realm. The sacraments he disavowed, and now he cowers at the helm of Charon's vessel, gouged and worn. Harsh, lamenting wails overwhelm him. Souls who from the earth were torn, walking along the river's bank, have to wait for all the unborn, not granted by a midwife's spank, not granted life by a midwife's spank, their heads crushed by a healer's hand. Charon, though a relentless crank, takes them first while their mothers stand in shock at the horror they wrought, their heads burrowing in the sand. And with this sad sight, Gear was caught off guard. One of the mothers held her unborn. With tears both were fraught, and salty water swiftly welled in his eyes. Instantly he knew, her simple confession dispelled the cures that in the others grew. And in this vision of sorrow, Gear realized what he must do. Being not promised tomorrow, he must decide to set his heart against that which causes sorrow. The sorrow dwelling in his heart, set it to the rhythm and beat of he who offers a fresh start, when it's certain you've met defeat. Nunc was his chance to reconcile. He did not by chance this priest meet. Brown Robe, it's my desire to file my sins as forgiven. Hear my confession. This demonic wile has filled my mind with jealous rage, hissing its black lies in my ear. So war against you I would wage, holding me with the absurd fear of telling the truth, that I sin. It's not truth, but God I should fear, because the love of God therein dwells, and this truth will set me free. Bless me, Padre, hear now my sin. Wretched years have passed since my knee is bent to seek supplication for my sins stemming from the tree. I seek reconciliation with you, God. Other gods I took, sinking from them inspiration, and thy holy name I forsook, putting my proud self above you. The seventh day for self I took, and in my indolence I grew. I cursed the parents I knew not, though other men I never slew. Revenge in my heart has burnt hot. With body and heart I looked back to Sodom like the wife of Lot. My garments stained scarlet and black. My truth became the lies I told, and so to you I turned my back. My heart grew stony, my soul turned cold. I coveted what was not mine, another lie that in me took hold. Others' wives I wanted as mine, to use them like a piece of meat. God gave me life, it is not mine. The gifts he granted me are sweet, Yet I coveted for other gifts, and in wanting met defeat. My coveting served to smother all of the sanctifying grace I needed to keep my brother, keep them from falling on their face, keep them from straying into sin, keep them within your holy place. Father, I've confessed every sin. It's my desire to reconcile with God. My vows have been broken. My life to now served to defile your church. Help me, King, to amend my life. Remember for my trial, my judgment, my doom, that I mend my ways with you, King, through this priest. Upon your mercy I depend, like leavened bread upon the yeast, upon the priest, unleavened bread. The brown robe, Gyr's confessor priest, was silent. Gyr thought he was dead or sleeping. There's nothing else? He finally asked. Gyr felt a dread to say it. Out with it. Well, see, our possessed friend over there told me something I know can't be true, but it makes me want to tear you apart. I hate him, and I hate you for it. It's starting to wear away my love. I desecrate myself, my neighbors, finally God, when I give ear to lies and hate. I now ask God, spare me the rod of lightning from the mountain top, where you dwell, true God from true God. Sublimely lead me to that top, and let me wonder at thy art, thy ringing bell swinging atop the zenith spinning at the heart of the universe, coast to coast. And finally, I beg, impart thy virtues that I may not boast and lose my way with selfish pride, then fall at last in hell and roast. My sorrow for having denied you makes me wilt like a flower without water. The tears I've cried prove to me thy kingly power o'er my heart. Forgive me, my king. Well, then, it is by the power of the keys I am forgiving you through Jesus Christ, he who died so you to heaven God could bring. By his blood you are sanctified. You'll go forth to sin no more, for by his cross you're justified. To cross the threshold of heaven's door, you're absolved. Go now in peace. His mercy endures evermore. As penance, you wear the fleece. Pray the Loretto Litany and Athanasian Creed. You'll cease all pagan prayers. The rosary will replace them, and you will pray for freedom of all and any women who for golden coin lay, for so many want to be free. And, you will walk the way of the Via Mater from sea to lake, silent and, barefoot. Stunned by this massive penance, he was speechless. At ash and soot was not... Oh, and Thanks, Father. God bless, amen, Gyr said with speed. Not so fast. You're a priest. Father, Gyr? I too have urgent need to confess. Well, then, I will hear it. Padre Gyr, bless me. I need forgiveness. I've sinned. It is near 2 weeks since my last confession. Last night, before me, did appear a succubus. The suppression I normally command of my passions was lost. An obsession of sorts took me. I tried to cry for help, but I fell to her spell, and I was alone on this high plateau, and I did not dispel her like St. Thomas when confined. I still tend to dispense penances that grind the penitent's remorseful soul. But purgatory, I remind them, is not a place to cajole each other, and so neither should our cities. Well, you will soon dole out my penance, the prayers I should, nay, must pray, acts I must perform with contrite heart, that by the wood hacked into a dividing form, and raised with my king humbly hung, I may escape the brooding storm of the wrath of the God among. You're forgiven by cross and blood, and the power I've left unsung. So absolved, go forth, shed your blood, spread the gospel, and remain true. Go in peace. Man survived the flood. As a penitent, you are due penance to atone. The 7 Psalms, pray them. Nightly you'll review your conscience. Unite the 7 dolors of Mary to your own. Don't stray from the path to heaven. As such, You'll walk to atone for your wandering, wayward heart, keeping in mind that flesh and bone is the only form where you start your life. You're walking on the road through man's city. Don't depart from pleasures therein. Your abode is not among tavern and din, where the lost ones go to unload virtue like gold shekels tossed in death's field, where they grow into lead. No, you are meant to dwell within the castle of the king who fed you when you were alone and weak, chasing not love, but sin instead. Keep in sight the heavenly peak, rising from the city of God, into the sky through which stars peek. Evermore the mercy of God endures. Gracias, Father Gear. So they left, two absolved by God, the other with a mocking jeer.